good. All right, hey everyone, this is Demarion Jones, and
I'm Noah Allen
with SCC's The Gateway, and this is just a continuation of our conversations, from the bridge. And today we have Dr. Castle.
Oh, thanks. Glad to be here.
Definitely. But with that, we're just going to roll into the questions. And with that, it's been an interesting first half to 2020. Mm-hmm. But we definitely wanted to come back with this series and have a great conversation and really just get everyone's perspectives on what's been going on recently from a leadership position. Mm-hmm. And along with that, just continue the series forward. So with that, Dr. Castle, how are you doing today? And how have you really been feeling with this first half of 2020?
Personally or for the college?
Well, personally and professionally.
Well, I'm just kidding, of course. Personally, I feel pretty good. And I'm happy to see most of the students here are, I think, in the same kind of wavelength, because the people I'm talking to and the classes I see, the faculty and staff that I work with, they've all kind of confirmed that we have been doing the right things in this first fall back since COVID, first full fall back, and I'm impressed so far. Lots of good stuff going on.
So one of the questions we would like to ask was, what are some new resources SCC has received due to the pandemic? I know with our interview that we did last week, we touched a little bit on that. You spoke about, I believe one thing I remember was the laptops that students will have access to, but what are some more resources that we've received?
Yeah. You just for a little background, you may know COVID-19 resulted in the CARES Act with the federal government, of which we got. They're actually working on a fourth right now, but there are three that are out. Somerset got about 15 million in CARES 1 that all went to students. In fact, that's been spent and gone for at least a month. CARES 2 money was designed to go against the costs of COVID for the college, and we did spend some of that money. In fact, there's a portion of that that's out there now for students to use as well. We have committed, but not quite received everything yet, roughly $650,000 worth of technology equipment, which includes new laptops. It includes some of the new, you've seen the Wi-Fi spots in the parking lots for all our campuses. We're working on that even more, so that's got, some of those are done, some are not. The equipment for them is definitely on order and will be in place here soon. You mentioned the laptops, like I said, for the faculty and staff, which I thought was really a great idea. It'll be kind of a loaner program. More to come as we get them in, but essentially if you need help in technology terms, then the college will be able to at least assist as much as we possibly can. And we ordered, I want to say, around 30 plus or more laptops, and we also included some of the technology that's required to kind of keep us on top of things in terms of servers that will help us conduct all the highlighted, you might know, the amount of traffic that's out there electronically is huge. So having servers to help us do the backups and do some of the other stuff is just as critical as having the stuff that people need on a face-to-face basis. We'll also have some MiFi equipment that we'll be able to lend out to people on an as-needed basis. And then we also invested in technology that we're using throughout the college for faculty as well. You've probably been in some classes where they've got some new equipment there that allows kind of a lecture capture system. So you can see a recorded lecture, and allows us to have students that we can split in and out from one day to the next, so one class doesn't sit together at one time. So I think that's pretty beneficial. And last but certainly not least, we are investing more into virtual reality and some of the simulation stuff that we need in the technical programs that's going to allow us to be able to teach some pieces. It doesn't replace hands-on kind of work, but it does help in getting that information out and to the students as they have to sit at home rather than dragging everybody in one time. So I'm very pleased about all that we've spent and where we're going with that.
Gotcha. Well, it leads into the next one is a college here in Kentucky was actually quoted in an article about their trigger number. So specifying how many like COVID-19 cases would have to be in order to shut down the campus. So with that, does SCC have a trigger number? And if so, where do you think that number looks like?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I'll tell you, right now we don't operate on a trigger number. What we do is we look at specific cases and where they've happened. We've got, as of today, we've had 5 reported cases. And what's important for you to remember about a COVID case is that most of them are not going to go too far in terms of people having problems. They're going to be ill, they're going to be gone, they're going to be back to work. So from an individual point of view, I feel pretty confident that we're all on the right pathway. It is when you get people together in a place and you have the possibility of transmitting COVID that it becomes an issue for us. So we look at every case that comes in, and so far of the 5 we've seen, none are connected. They're on different campuses, they're different classes, they're different, and what we believe and what we've been able to figure out so far is the people that have contracted that are getting it somewhere else. So they were going to have it one way or the other. It's now just a matter of trying to make sure that those folks don't get into our classes and have any problems with the students or the faculty and staff that are here. And we've done a very good job. I will tell you the health departments are telling us that, and this is not just one, but several, that we've gone way above beyond what they needed to do. We were able to trace people immediately when they needed that data. We've cleaned and disinfected ahead of time. We have kind of a recurring cleaning process that ensures students, faculty, and staff are coming into a clean area every day. And as you can tell by the masks you're wearing, you know, we keep that along with social distancing as one of the biggest cues that we use to teach class. So I'm very pleased with that, and I think we're doing a good job with it.
You mentioned...
I didn't really answer your question yet, though.
So do you think, well, maybe even a range of, so to say, like what type of number do you think, if you were to wake up tomorrow and find out a number, what do you think would be like, okay, I need to halt the progression of school?
Sure. Let's say we had 4 cases tomorrow. The first thing I'd look at is where were they all at. If they're all in one class, we're going to go down to that classroom and that lab area, that building, and take a look at those students. We're going to close it down, at least for a day or so, until we figure out what's going on, and then once we get that established, we'll work it, the rest of the need. It would take an awfully large spread of a lot of students to cause us to close every campus and center that we have. So from that aspect, it's always going to be based on total numbers and what's driving us to make those decisions, and they're going to be made individually. So, but some of the bigger colleges and universities, if you look at a UK or a WKU, they need those kind of trigger numbers because the numbers of cases they're dealing with are huge. UK is doing just as good a job as we are, but they've got so many students, and they've got dormitories and close-in areas where students are together. They have to kind of keep track of that. So their trigger numbers are going to be based on those numbers and places where they're at as well. Now, does that answer what you were looking for? I know I kind of get off on the tangent.
So in the last response, you kind of mentioned the process of cleaning the buildings and keeping the students and faculty safe. I was wondering what's that specific process and procedure that the janitorial staff does every single day?
Yeah, that's interesting because we actually bought additional disinfecting equipment. We hired 20 part-time folks to approximately 20. I think we still need a few more, but part-time folks that do nothing but clean up at the end of the day. So every classroom gets cleaned every time it's open, and the sign that you see on the outside that says sanitized, you take that down and they know automatically they need to go in and clean up for the day. So it would include just including wiping down these windows. Desks. It would also include any chairs, some common touch areas, the screens. If you've got multiple use computers, we'll be looking at wiping those down as well. If you're in a lab, it's going to include all the materials that are in there and the common use tools and equipment. So there's a lot they do every day with that. And the folks I think that probably recognize it and do it really well are the folks that we've had working on this since the start.
Mm-hmm.
So they bring in the machines and they clean those on a regular schedule. And I will tell you, I just am very, very pleased with the way things are going. I'm kind of happy that we've got somebody who's so interested, Larry Abbott and all the rest of the maintenance and operations people that are out there doing this work
Mm-hmm.
every day. It's not fun stuff, but it's very, very important.
Absolutely.
So I feel very confident in the work they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Love that, love that. Well, with that, really, what are your hopes and fears moving really into the second half of 2020 in relation to COVID-19, but also the students trying to adapt to the new normal, as we all call it?
Yeah. Well, my hope is that we do get some kind of resolution to this and that we start seeing that larger number taper off towards January. I mean, I would hope for it sooner than that, but I think realistically, you know, we have to be looking at Christmas and a new semester before we are going to see some real gains there. As for, you know, trying to guess at when that will be, I don't know. But in the meantime, what I would hope is that students, faculty, and staff continue to do what they're doing, because I don't think they recognize, because I see other colleges and, you know, where some of these things are starting to occur, and the fact that we have taken such a deep interest in doing this the right way, and you've been on board with it, and all the faculty and staff have been on board with it, and the result is we're working, I think, in a pretty as close to normal manner as we can right now. And the students are getting the benefit of continuing their educational path, because you need to do that. You shouldn't be letting this keep you from continuing with your life. It should be something you take care of, something you are careful of with others, but don't let it stop you from doing what you need to be doing in order to be moving forward with your future. So that is kind of the key thing I look at. I also look at what we hope will come out of the spring with this is an increased use of technology and a betterment of the way we deliver curriculum and teaching to our students and to our community. Because with all the things we're doing now, if you ask a typical faculty member, are there any differences, and we happen to be on the South Campus of Somerset, if you walk across the parking lot and talk to those folks, they're going to tell you we do a lot of things different because they had to close down, and now they're able to go ahead and teach a large portion of their course online, where they weren't able or weren't forced to do that before, and COVID kind of made us take accounting of what we do and how we do it.
Definitely.
So that's been a good thing.
So what would you say that you're most fearful of? I mean, there's a lot of hopes, a lot of things that you would really like to see happen. What would you say, one or two things that you're most fearful of?
Yeah, I think I probably fear the same things most people do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't lend it a lot of credence right now. But I mean, if we did have a huge rebound, you know, what are we going to have to do with the college in terms of bringing that back, you know, and shutting down and going back to an online format? And what's the impact going to be on our students? Because they're going to be having to put something off again that we just got people back on track with. So that's kind of one fear I look at. The other is, I think people may get into the habit of not coming to school because they think they don't have a way to move forward. Definitely. And they're scared to do an online course, which I get it. I had to take them too, and you know, the first one you take is always kind of nerve-wracking because you don't know really what you're doing, and you might be touching the wrong button, and you might have your picture on when, you know, you're in the middle of eating your dinner or something. So you have to be kind of careful about that. But I think once people get accustomed to it, it's just like coming to a regular class. So definitely. That would be the other scary part, is people are worried about not coming back to college when they should be thinking about coming back.
Definitely. And to that, any student watching, like I took online classes my first year, actually being a freshman here. So it was really, it comes down to discipline at the end of the day. If you're not disciplined enough to put things on a calendar, write something down, or use a reminder, or sticky notes, which became my best friends, you definitely have to do that. And the more you just visually see something, and the more you just constantly, keep that reminder, then it becomes a whole lot easier. And even if that's not just going to a Zoom meeting with your teacher and other students, or even if you're just, preparing for an exam or just a little project. So that's just a nugget.
And I can, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. No, I can add to that too, because the visual communications program is fully online.
Yeah.
And that was a big adjustment for me, transferring from Campbellsville University to Somerset, not having like a fully online class before. So coming here and adjusting to that, it is hard. It's very hard. The first one is very scary. But once you kind of get in that groove, I think it opens up a lot of great opportunities, especially if you're someone who likes to work at your own pace, work on your own schedule. I think it's really good for that. But off of that, I have a question that I wanted to ask. For a student who has never had an online class before and just started this semester, and are just kind of struggling with the transition, what advice would you give them, or have you given any advice to students so far? Has any student come to you asking for advice or help with the transition?
Well, I haven't had anybody ask me personally, but I would suggest to you that working and talking to that instructor is probably going to be the biggest thing for you to get over. And a lot of times that's hard for students because they got this vision of the instructor that is, someone who's got this power of the grade right behind behind the wall there, and they're scared they're going to say the wrong thing and but I guarantee you, I have, I don't teach much now, but when I taught a while back, that was always the biggest thing, was to get students to just talk to me first, because for crying out loud, we can probably answer 99% of the problems that you've got on the phone and fix them. And the ones that we can't, we know who to talk to get you the right answers when you need them. So the big thing is communication, and I think probably, I don't want to tell everybody how old I am today, but texting is probably a more common trait today. But you shouldn't be afraid to text or call or just come on in the office. That's what I like. If I can see you face to face, I get a lot more idea of what your fears are and worries, and hopefully we can work through those pretty quick.
For sure.
So it's all about being in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Okay.
With social distancing, of course, in touch, but
yeah.
But with that, just for respect of what everything is going on. And I'm taking the conversation in a slightly different direction. And even I have a vodcast series outside of this that is called Black, Blue, and Change, and we're pushing the conversation towards around social unrest and a lot of different race discrimination, things that are going on today. Right. So I would like to get your honest thoughts on the social injustice cases like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so on and so forth, from a professional standpoint, but also a personal standpoint. Yeah.
Well, from I think from a professional standpoint, my concern right now is that we are addressing those issues very closely at the college. And it's one of the issues, one of the things that we've been focused on with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group for the first part of the year. In fact, although it's always been a push for universities and colleges to be forward thinking about what we're doing with students, ensuring students are treated fairly no matter where they're at, and focused on those that are underrepresented and the ones that are in special need of help, that they get that help and that they get that advantage whenever they need it. I think what you're seeing from a national viewpoint, this is outside the college, I'm very much in favor of us taking as a society taking a look at what is right and what's wrong and addressing the wrongs and fixing them. What I have problems with, and this is on both sides of the issue, is all the violence that's associated with it right now. I have big problems with that, and many people know I was in the military for 26 years, and I'm very accustomed to what happens when people get violent, and I don't want to see that. And I've been in many parts of the world where, racial and minorities are treated very poorly, and it can be nothing more than just being, a third world country that's in a very rich country, especially, for instance, in the Middle East. And you have to have that viewpoint when you look at what we're seeing today, and that's bringing everybody back to this same level. And it's hard to do without getting emotional about it. And I think that's where we're driving so many problems right now. People are kind of in the weeds about the emotional side of it, and we're getting away from the point that we really need to be on, and that is, what do we need to do to fix it? And where do we have the problems at here? And what do we got to do to fix the problems here? We can't fix the problems in the U.S., but we can sure address everything that's associated with Somerset Community College and how we operate here. So we're focused on that right now. To that end, we put out a statement a little bit ago. It's on the website if you haven't had a chance to see it, in the diversity page, kind of what we think and how we think and why we do the things we do. And Ms. Elaine Wilson is our DEI director. She does a great job of this, trying to bring people back in, and you're going to see some of those initiatives, but they're threaded through the things that we are working on. So our strategic plan has what we call DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, threaded throughout that. And we've threaded those into the academic master plan. We've also threaded those into our enrollment plans, and the system itself has some very specific goals that they look at as well. So I think we've done a very good job of starting the process. Please don't interpret that as say, oh, we're all done. We don't have anything else to fix. We're a long ways from that. And we can always improve. But I think the first step to be taken, and that is recognizing that there's an issue and then addressing those, is one that we're on the way down that path.
For sure. I like how you worded it as though you're threading it into the systems and the procedures that go into place. And even with that, really, no, you can ask the last one.
What should higher education's response be to the recent social unrest?
Yeah, I think number one, you've got to be able to, we already talked about this, look inwardly first at the areas that you have, at the students, and ask them what they think, faculty and staff, and then figure out collectively, where do we have to go to make some of those changes. As far as the rest of the things that we can do, we need to be listening and allowing, I think, people to talk, because we don't do a really good job of that sometimes. And so what you saw, we did a Facebook Live event with a little while back where we had some folks that were talking about this from a broader community view, and I really liked that and enjoyed it, and I asked Elaine to go ahead and do some more of that in the coming year. She's instituted a monthly discussion group for DEI. Right now it's the employees only, but I would suggest to you that might be something we want to bring in and get the students as well, because it's important to hear what really is bugging people in there, and if you don't listen, you'll never hear it. So we're going to have to figure out the way that we can listen a little better.
For sure. I'll definitely send Ms. Wilson an email to have a conversation with her on it. But with that, really in closing, with a lot of these conversations, I like to have some big key points from it. And from this conversation, what do you think that, somebody just watching this, even if they watch 5 minutes, 20 minutes, or the entire thing, what do you think should be the 3 biggest takeaways from this conversation?
Well, number one, I would suggest to you that we're in a bad place in terms of COVID. We know that. We'll continue to work through that. But that should not be a reason why you aren't coming to school. And I say school, but I don't even care if you come to Somerset Community College or you go to some other kind of education that helps you get a bigger and better career pathway, whatever it is that lifts you up to do that. Somerset, I think, is the best place to go to start that. So that would be one thing. Second, I would suggest that all of the faculty, staff, and students here have done a good job on what they've been dealt in the last 6 months, and that they should look forward to the next 6 months. It's not going to last forever, and I keep telling people this. We're going to go in the long game. Is that this is going to end? We're going to be better coming out of it than we were when we went in, and we've already started showing that. So I'm kind of optimistic, if you will, that this is going to be a good place for us to move. Third, I think the third takeaway from this conversation also has to be, where we're at and what we can do to help ourselves understand where the inequities in our college and our system are, and start working to improve those. And we've taken the first baby steps, but we're looking for the rest of them in the coming year or two. So that's exciting for me.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Well, with that, it's Ryan Jones, Noah Allen, and Dr. Castle signing out on SCC's The Gateway. And it's been a great episode.
All right.
Cool.
Awesome.